You're listening to 7 Centered Minutes, a weekly Inspirecast created for sharing spiritual wisdom. Does the world need another podcast? I've spent some time getting acquainted with a variety of spirituality podcasts, and I found that there are literally more podcasts in this category than anyone could ever imagine. I have decided to add one more perspective to the world of spirituality podcasting, and in today's episode, I will tell you why. So does the world need another podcast? I started asking myself that very question about a year ago when I first began to conceive of recording inspirational pieces to share on social media with people who might enjoy hearing them. To be honest, it seemed like a timely idea. After all, the world of social media surely seems to need an injection of positivity every now and then, especially nowadays. And then there's definitely room out there, it seems, for ideas in cyberspace that deviate from the norm. There seems to be a space for exploring ideas from religious philosophies that don't get very much attention. And so, as I went back and forth in my own heart and mind, pondering whether another podcast might just get lost in the noise, I scrolled through a few recordings made by people representing a variety of faith traditions, and there were many. I listened to recordings by Christians and Buddhists and New Agers and atheists, and I even listened to a recording or two by academics and a few talks recorded at conferences that have taken place over the past several years. While there are many podcasts online that highlight why the host believes in his or her religion, or that explain what the religion's basic tenets are, there are seemingly very few out there that have been created just to inspire the listener. I really wanted to create something that would get us out of the world of theory and criticism and into the world of practice. I've been creating spiritual content for other platforms for around 10 years now. And I've always found that people aren't just following to gather information. They also want something that will expand their soul. They want something that will grow their heart. They want something that will inspire them deep down within. And so as I listen to other podcasts seeking inspiration, I found a couple, but for the most part, I found it hard to find a show that consistently just explored ways to live more spiritually, or podcasts that would show us how spirituality in all of these religions can help us to connect with others. Most of the podcasts are kind of a hodgepodge, and I really don't want to do a hodgepodge. I want to do something on a consistent basis that will draw the listener into that special space where they can access the core of their soul and pull out something beautiful. So while considering whether the world needs another podcast, I sort of acknowledge that my tendency when listening to a podcast is to sort of be in a hurry. I'm really busy these days. I know my attention span can be a little bit limited, and I know I'm not the only one. And so this is the norm. We're all busy, and I kind of wondered to myself, am I being realistic in assuming that people will tune in for a long string of ideas about religion? Is there a way to put out inspirational content that will challenge and grow people without taking more of their precious time than necessary? And I've started to think to myself, yeah, there's a way to do that if I keep it brief and get to the core of what matters. And so after looking at the options out there and thinking about what I was feeling more and more drawn to do, I came to a conclusion. I realized that I would never know if the world needed another podcast unless I offered one to its listeners. And so it hit me that if I offer something to all of you that will truly inspire you and call you to live as the highest and best version of yourself, you might welcome me into your life. Most importantly, I realize that there's always room for more good in the world. There's always room for people to come out of the woodwork and call on the masses to be better to themselves and better to one another. And so with that, I've decided to launch the podcast that you're listening to right now, a weekly internet recording that I am calling 7 Centered Minutes. And hopefully the name of it tells you a lot about what I'd like to accomplish here. Each Monday, I'm going to publish a pre-recorded 7-minute talk inspired by the wisdom of the world's great religious thinkers and the world's great ancient religions. And I'm going to do this with an aim of helping you to slow down and find the core of what really matters, even if it's only for a few minutes at a time. And finally, I'll connect with all of you across the usual social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So please be sure to look for me there. And I also encourage you to subscribe by email on my website, www.7centeredminutes.com, in order to stay inspired. And so that's it. I'm excited about taking this journey with you. My name's Crystal St. Marie Lewis, and I'm closing out the very first 7 Centered Minutes podcast. And I'm reminding you here to live compassionately and to honor the divine essence within yourselves. Be inspired, and I'll see you online.